Now I want steak.
Yeah.
Now we have all this vegan talk.
I want to eat a steak.
Well, I want some beef.
Hey, you know what? The cow ate vegetables for me. Now I'm just eating it as a.
Who was that? Was that? It was a physicist. Was it Wolfgang Pauli?
Oh, Wolfgang Puck.
No, it was a physicist. There was a physicist who decided that the steak was the ultimate food because the cow ate all of the things you needed and then processed them efficiently.
Doesn't really work that way, though.
It wasn't Pauli.
I think it was tongue in cheek.
No, he was not being tongue in cheek.
No. That's a different cut. Tongue in cheek is a different cut.
Tongue is good.
Lingua, I call it.
I love it. I was like, oh, try it. Like in the taco, and it's like, hey, it's pretty good. You just have to cook it the right way, or it's really tough.
Well, I will be having mac and cheese from Lemonade directly after the show. It's in my head now, and it won't be exiting.
Have you ever had homeroom, Sarah?
No.
It is the best vegan mac and cheese I've ever had in my entire life. It is so good that I order it with meat on it instead of.
Is it cashew cheese?
Veggie burger with bacon and a
because I've found that cashew cheese is my favorite cheese. If we're going vegan, it works for me.
To be totally honest, I don't know. All I know is that, and this was the benefit of eating more vegan food because of my wife, that I realized is that I actually just don't like heavy cream all that much. And so it was a great change to have vegan cheese, it tasted just like, gave me all the flavor notes that I wanted out of the cheese, but was not quite the same heavy, gigantic brick of cream.
I bet it was cashew.
50 seconds.
Cashew cheese.
That's nacho.
Them are good, as my dad used to say.
That's nacho cheese. That's not. Put it down. It's not. Old joke. Not even. Trying to get your attention though, because we are about 20 seconds away.
All right, I'm gonna see if I can find this.
I like these countdowns.
Yeah, it's working.
Oh, very exciting.
Yeah. Here we go. And 10, 9, 8, 7. It makes us feel like we're live.
Oh, I got to bail. I couldn't figure it out. Go.
4, 3, 2, 1. Thanks to everyone who supports Daily Tech News Show directly. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. This is the Daily Tech News for Monday, September 17th, 2018 in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline, I'm Scooter Lane.
From Austin, Texas, I'm Justin Robert Young.
And awake, I'm Roger Chang, the producer of the show.
Give Roger a break. He only had 3 hours of sleep. He's got 2 daughters. It's just going to happen, folks. Scooter's back. Nice to hear.
Yes.
Good to see you, Scoots.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to be here. I never left, but...
If you take a peek at the video version of the show, well, no, I meant you called yourself Scooter. You haven't done that.
I know. That's true. Well, I did it for Justin. I know.
I love
Justin
it.
Appreciates
For
that.
great Justin. If you're taking a peek at the video, you may see that the shelves behind me are a little empty. Even on audio, it might sound a little more roomy than usual. In the middle of the studio move. So by next Monday, we will have a whole new location for me to record from. But that's neither here nor there. Let's start with a few tech things you should know.
The Verge reports that Microsoft has completed its tests of whether Windows 10 preview users like being told that Microsoft Edge is better when a user attempts to install Chrome or Firefox. The test results are that Microsoft does not plan to include the warning in the Windows 10 October 2018 update, but will continue to test prompts like this in the future.
Engadget reports that Google has completed its test of whether Chrome M69 preview users like having special subdomains, including www removed from their address bar. The test result is that Google will roll back these changes in M69 on Chrome for desktop and Android and have discussions with standard bodies on the topic. However, Google does intend to hide www in Chrome 70.
If I could summarize those two stories, big companies try to do things they want to do, find out when people don't like it, maybe they shouldn't do that. All right, let's talk a little more about Marc Benioff pulling off a Jeff Bezos, Justin.
Yeah, a little less frequent, though. Salesforce.com co-founder Marc Benioff and Lynn Benioff have agreed to buy Time magazine from the Meredith Corporation. Meredith purchased Time Inc. in January and has begun selling off some of its most popular publications, including Sports Illustrated, Money, and Fortune. So Time, not quite the Washington Post, but certainly among the biggest brands in magazine journalism writ large.
Also, it's slightly interesting that the Benioffs are buying Time rather than Fortune, which would have been my guess.
Maybe Fortune costs more. I looked at this and I feel it. I feel it. Meredith is keeping its profitable brands. Like Good Housekeeping is a brand they have that still makes them money, apparently. So they're holding on to that. Fortune is one where Fortune.com particularly is a very popular website still. I would think that might be one they would keep. So maybe they're still floating it out there, but asking for more because it's doing a little better than Time.
This is a prestige play. This is
for Benioff, you mean?
For Benioff, yeah. To me, Time is a brand that means something. It is something. Obviously, the Benioffs, certainly not hurting for money, can have it be their own little element of a charity to keep a good brand with good journalism alive in the world. I don't quite see the same kind of immediate play that you did with Bezos and the Washington Post, where you can bundle it into a Prime subscription or make a deal to do it. Obviously, this is it's not an Amazon company, but there are connections there. This, to me, I think is just Benioff wanting to keep it alive. He doesn't have any other media holdings, as of now. So maybe he wants to make a play further into that.
Well, and that's worth pointing out. Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post. Amazon didn't buy the Washington Post, but Amazon makes television programs and they wanted to bundle it in with Prime because, hey, it's Bezos on the top of both. So it starts to feel like there's a lot of Amazon influence. Maybe the reason, to your point, Sarah, that Benioff doesn't want to buy Fortune is he wants to make it very clear that this is a Benioff and Benioff enterprise, not a Salesforce thing.
Who will be Time's next person of the year?
Marc and Lynn Benioff.
Congratulations
if that's true, hats off to you, Benioff.
I'm telling you, man, if I'm the Time editorial staff, I'm like, thank you for saving our jobs. You are definitely people of the year. No, but and I'm sure that their editorial integrity will prevent that. But yeah, it's interesting. I saw a couple of headlines that are like Marc Benioff and his wife, and I'm like, well, that's not fair to Lynn Benioff. She should be identified by herself. She is a person, not just defined by Marc Benioff. But then when I went to find out her title, she's kind of secretive and just does a lot of charity work. So other than calling her Lynn Benioff, I'm very curious what she actually does behind the scenes. I didn't have enough time to dig further into it.
Kakao announced it will shut down image sharing social network Path. Remember Path? I knew it well. October 18th, it's over. Users have until then to download their data. The apps will be removed from the Google Play and Apple app stores on October 1st.
Man,
mixed feelings about this.
Well, it's funny. I do have fond memories of Path. I did enjoy my time with it. I think a lot of the narrative that I saw around this story today was looking at the times in which Path could have sold for a lot of money and not sell, and now they
did sell to Kakao 3 years ago.
They did sell to Kakao,
which makes Kakao talk. So they finally did, but they probably played out.
But there was a time when Path was seemingly worth a lot more.
There were legitimate debates about whether Path could supplant Facebook back when Facebook was much smaller and Path was much bigger.
Well, the thing about Path, for anybody who hasn't used it or hasn't in a while, is the premise was really cool. It was social networks aren't about amassing followers. They're about curating a small group of people and really being more yourself.
I feel like
I loved that idea.
Now, don't you think?
Well, I do think that they had the right idea and the wrong application, because if you've seen Snapchat, was the idea was no, you don't need to go viral. You don't need to necessarily, we're not even going to tell you how many followers you have. We're just going to give you this weird score that is a calculation of it. The difference is that Snapchat gave us this video sharing and messaging solution, and Kakao gave us a slightly polished, Apple-y looking version of Facebook. And ultimately, we didn't really want that because we could get all that functionality from a place where we would share it with more people. And, you know, Path could have been something, but I think ultimately, you know, you can, you know, hindsight's 2020, but maybe that $100 million from Google would have been pretty sweet.
One of my relatives uses Path, or did, to hide from their other relatives and have a secret social network with a couple of their friends, and messaged me today saying, what should I replace Path with? And so, you know,
good news, Tom's relative, you have lots of options.
I went through a bunch of different suggestions, but Vero seemed to be the one they wanted to use.
Huh.
So, and I was like, yeah, I haven't heard buzz about Vero since like March. So that might be a safe place to hide out for now.
Yeah, I you know, the whole Path thing was, I actually loved that app. I haven't used it in some time. I haven't used it since Kakao bought it, but I liked the whole idea. It was perhaps ahead of its time in a way, where I felt like people liked the idea of having a smaller social network, but didn't really know how to intimately work on those levels. And yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
No, there's no more Path.
The Path is ended.
IDM Girl on DTNS subreddit brought this next story to our attention. It's a CNET story by Sean Hollister, clearing up a controversy about Anders G. Da Silva, who's been burning up the clickbait stories. Not Anders' fault, but people have been turning his story into clickbait, claiming Apple removed purchased movies from his library. Now, he definitely had movies removed from his library. That part isn't the clickbait. The clickbait is Apple is unapologetic, and Apple support gave him a couple of free rentals, but didn't really solve his problem. Well, it turns out Da Silva had not downloaded the movies, so it wasn't a case of Apple deleting them from his hard drive, which a couple of stories implied. Also, Da Silva had moved from Australia to Canada. The movies that disappeared had been purchased when he still lived in Australia, and it appears that the Australian versions are still available if he changed his region back to Australia. And you may say, well, wait, Canada, Australia, they're both English language. You know, what's the big deal? Why can't Apple make them available in Canada? I bet this is an unforeseen consequences situation, because movies are edited and produced differently in different countries to meet the standards of those countries. So yeah, they're both in English, but in Australia, maybe you're not allowed to show a thing that's okay to show in Canada. So you have a slightly different edit. Anyway, that seems to be what happened. And I don't think it's Apple doing it on purpose. It's certainly a failure in Apple support not to figure that out for Da Silva, but he should be able to get his purchased movies back.
What a weird story this was, because for whatever reason, it just raised the hackles of physical media purists who wanted a reason to come out and yell about how awesome their Blu-ray collections are and how much we are all moving into a dystopic future where the man can take your movies away if you buy them digitally. Just so strange, like what this brought out in people.
Yeah, well, because there have been a lot of people who have, for whatever reason, a lot of stake in saying you're wrong to trust anyone for cloud movies. And so as soon as one thing happens, they're going to pile on top of it. And this did look bad at first, because Da Silva was like, hey, I don't have these movies. Like, they just disappeared. And he talked to Apple support, and Apple support failed him. They weren't able to identify the problem that Sean Hollister from CNET was able to identify and figure out.
Linux creator Linus Torvalds sent a note to the Linux kernel mailing list apologizing for behavior that may have driven away some developers, and saying that he will take a break from working on Linux. Torvalds wrote that he will, quote, get some assistance on how to understand people's emotions and respond appropriately, end quote. He also emphasized that he does want to continue maintaining Linux.
I was not aware that Linus Torvalds was upsetting developers as much as he now believes that he has been doing for years. And the story is a little convoluted. It has to do with travel and, bad managing of calendars and that sort of thing. But for him to say, listen, I've been I mean, what's the word really?
You gotta, it's not about there's a whole story about him forgetting to schedule
Exactly.
around a conference he was supposed to go to, but that's not the problem. The problem is every once in a while he goes off on people on the public mailing list. And a lot of times people champion him and say, see, he doesn't hold back. He tells them the way it is. But some developers behind the scenes were like, we get it. We know you have a hot temper and you don't mean anything by it, but it's unpleasant. And they finally persuaded him like, hey man, just maybe work on that. Maybe work on your people skills a little, because you're driving some otherwise talented developers away from developing Linux. And I've actually been guilty of cheering his rants on in a couple of cases where I'm like, yeah, man, finally, he's the maker of Linux. He gets to say that. But it turns out that, hearing about it once in a while from the outside, not nearly the same as living with it on a day-to-day basis.
Empathy is a lesson that we can all stand to learn more about in an internet age.
I feel what you're feeling there.
Thank you, Tom.
Perhaps you'll feel Apple's iOS 12, which is available now as an over-the-air update, along with a bunch of speed improvements, a lot of improvements, in fact. There are new Animoji characters for the new iPhone models, new camera effects, just to name a few. Apple also originally planned to introduce group FaceTime support in iOS 12, but removed the feature while it was still in beta.
It wasn't quite there.
My iOS 12 update for the iPhone I keep went smoothly, and it's fine. I haven't really noticed anything that crazy out of it, but I haven't.
How long did it take?
20 minutes or less. I didn't really even pay attention. I went over and pressed the button to install after it downloaded, and went back to it a little while later after doing some other things, and it was fine. The watchOS 5 update, on the other hand, was going to take an hour until I remembered the trick that I learned on the SMR podcast, which I think they learned from iMore, which is turn off Bluetooth during a watchOS update, and suddenly your update goes from an hour to 20 minutes because it forces the watch to use Wi-Fi, which is faster. I guess the reason Apple wants to use Bluetooth is because it's easier on your battery. But if you want to get your watch back on your hand faster, there's the trick.
Oh, that's interesting. So it would be, or either Wi-Fi or the radio, right? Yeah, it's
Bluetooth or Wi-Fi are your options, and if you have both on, it will force it over Bluetooth, which is much slower.
Yeah.
So there you go. Did you update your iOS 12? Anyone else?
I have not yet. No.
I'm not even bothering until I get my new iPhone on the 21st. Yeah, right. Nothing is happening in my home with this beat up 7 Plus. We're just limping along.
All right. So you didn't do the early upgrade that we were talking about on Friday?
No.
Okay. I didn't either. I was too lazy to do it. Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. All right, the World Economic Forum, they're the folks who bring you Davos. And by you, I mean rich people, not you. Machines and automated software, according to the World Economic Forum report, are going to handle about half of all our workplace tasks within 7 years. Now, previously, the report had a somewhat dim view, saying, yeah, machines and automated software are going to replace a bunch of jobs, and they're going to eliminate more jobs than they create. However, that has now changed. The technologies are now believed to eliminate 75 million jobs by 2022, but create 133 million jobs. According to the report, what they call the fourth industrial revolution will do that. It'll vary by industry, though. And this is where the report gets very clear. It says, look, if you're in mining, there's going to be a lot of jobs lost. If you're in the consumer space, IT, accounting, post offices, going to lose a lot of jobs. Less heavy replacement will happen, and possibly job creation will happen in the professional services, data analysts, software developers, social media specialists, customer service, where you need the human touch, teachers, etc. So they emphasize the need for companies on the one hand to invest in retraining and providing continuing education for their employees, More than half of employees of large companies might need significant retraining in the next 7 years. And they urged governments to create safety nets for those workers in transition from one industry, say mining or IT or accounting, to something else. They say also that these new jobs may not be as secure. They may be more part-time, more freelance jobs. Other studies have kind of been all over the place on this. The 2015 Bank of England report estimated about a loss of 80 million US and 15 million UK jobs by 2035. PricewaterhouseCoopers in July predicted it would break even. You'd create as many jobs as you replaced. In December of 2018, McKinsey said the same thing, equal loss in creation by 2030. So it's starting to look like the reports are at least saying it's not going to be devastating. It's not going to be the machines and the automation will come and we'll all be out of jobs. But what we've been saying for a long time on this show, which is it's going to affect some people, not others. You probably will still have jobs to get, but you may need to retrain people in order to give them the skills to get those new jobs that are created.
This kind of seems like a punt to me. Like, because I don't know if the World Economic Forum, as much as they have the finger on the pulse of the global business community, whether when you're talking about tremendous disruptions in how we do business, whether you can effectively predict that going forward. And yes, it's interesting to see that we, based on these other studies, there seems to be a hurting of where the projections tend to be, and they are not dour, right? They are not, talking about a meteor that's going to hit the world economy and create gigantic joblessness. But at the same time, I just feel like this is a little bit more of an unpredictable, wild path that we're going to take over the next 10 to 15 years. And I don't know exactly how much you can put a figure on it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not an exact science by any stretch because we've never seen this exact thing happen. We have to go based on, the previous 3 industrial revolutions, the computers that came, the steam engine, et cetera. And you're just going around and asking people what they think. Now, these are people who work in the industry, and they probably have a good educated guess, but it's still a guess. This report that we're talking about from the World Economic Forum based its forecast on a survey of senior executives, strategy officers, and human resources specialists at 300 global companies across 20 countries, representing more than 15 million employees. Their economies represent 70% of global GDP. So they're asking the right people. It's just those people probably have a better idea than you or I, but even they could be wrong. It's all a guess. It's based on, well, right now, based on the technologies we're seeing coming in, this is what we're planning for.
Yeah. So let's take this WEF report for what it is and say that, yes, there will be more jobs created. However, with the caveat that there will need to be retraining and there will need to be a concerted effort to create, to make workers who were preparing for one economy be available to the other. Whose job is that? Is that the job of industry? Is that something that government should support by way of tax breaks, or maybe be more proactive and retrain workers for the benefit of a oncoming challenges themselves?
I think it's both. I think you have different roles there, and different philosophical bents are going to think different things about how much government should get involved. But I think everybody who's serious about this thinks that the government probably needs to provide the safety net between industries, right? The mining industry should not be expected to retrain miners for becoming social media specialists, right? There needs to be some kind of plan. Maybe it's a safety net, supplemental income. Maybe it's an incentive program for re-education or something like that. That's where politics comes in. That's where, different stripes will say, well, I think spending little money gets you more than spending a lot of money, et cetera. But I think government's role is to say there's going to be people falling out of an industry that shouldn't be responsible for retraining them. We're going to have to wholly transition them from one place to another. I think where industry, it's in their own self-interest to cover it, is where you say, look, we've got a lot of talented people in-house. we're not going to need them as much in accounting anymore, but those skills are transferable into the data analysis section. Let's give them continuing education. Let's give them retraining right now so that we don't miss a beat when that transition happens.
Here's the one other thing that I found interesting, just wrapping up with this, is that it feels like the idea of retirement, of this is, you're at one company, you get your gold watch, and then that's that, obviously has eroded as we are in even our modern day. But if the idea is, it just kind of snuck in here, oh, by the way, the new jobs might be less secure, and they might be part-time, that it's like, we might be already seeing it. I'm sorry you got fired from the mine. Would you like to drive Uber?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, exactly. That's going to happen a lot.
That's, happening now.
Hey, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddits. Always a safe place. Submit stories and vote on others at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow. And guess who's back? Text message is back from its summer hiatus. So let's check in with Nate Langston about eSIMs.
Nate?
Oh, Nate.
Do we have a Nate?
Second. Cheers, guys. This week we go pretty deep on the benefits of devices that have eSIMs, or embedded SIM cards. With the announcement of the Apple Watch Series 4, the UK got its second mobile carrier to support the technology. Previously, only one of our many networks actually supported it. So we thought it was about time to take a long look at what needed to change, how the technology works, and what it means for other networks around the world. All that and plenty more available now at techpodcast.uk.
Yeah, if you're curious about that whole dual SIM thing that was announced, and the eSIM part of it particularly, definitely check out text message. All right. And then what we're going to do right now is check out Mailbag.
We are. This first one comes from Tim. It says, for people like me who suffer from a balance disorder, in Tim's case, it's Meniere's, which I looked up, and I sort of a vertigo thing. I had not heard of this before, Tim. The new Apple Watch Series 4 is a really big deal. Imagine if I fall over, bang my head, nobody else is around, having the watch automatically call the emergency services and give them my location could save lives.
Yeah, certainly. We were not trying to belittle every use case. I was only saying for myself that I'm not sure that this would be something that I would use, but sounds like it's an essential for somebody like Tim. Thanks for that.
I've actually heard that from a couple of people that are there are more folks that are kind of at risk that aren't elderly that seem very excited by this.
Allison Sheridan got an email from a friend clarifying that the ECG function of the Apple Watch is indeed FDA approved. I made a kind of a crass remark that they specifically said the heart rate and rhythm were FDA approved, but didn't make it clear and maybe implied that the ECG was, and we didn't know whether it was. Well, it is. The upshot of the letter she got is that the watch can be marketed to consumers as an over-the-counter ECG device, but it has not received approval as a medical device. That's true. The heart rate stuff too, I think. Allison found an opinion from someone on Reddit who says they are an emergency physician and said it is not intended for people under the age of 22. It is considered an over-the-counter device and classified as class 2, which is the same class as things like condoms and home pregnancy kits. Your home pregnancy kit, I think, is a great analysis or analogy. It's not the be-all, end-all on whether you're pregnant or not. It's a way to check real quickly at home and then seek further advice depending on what it says. Sounds like the ECG is exactly the same thing. And I even made Allison dig up the actual link to the letter on FDA.gov. So hat tip to Allison. Thank you so much for doing that. And we'll have that in our show notes at dailytechnewsshow.com.
You rock, Allison. And thanks also to Tim for the email. And thanks to everybody who sends us emails. And also thanks to Justin Robert Young for being with us this fine Monday. Justin, how was your weekend and where do we keep up with your work?
Oh, man, it was a great weekend. I actually did a live podcast with the Everything's Coming Up Simpsons podcast with Brian Brushwood and myself, joining the two hosts there, Allie and Julia. So go ahead and look for that coming out soon. But this is the week. We have a huge week in politics. The Brett Kavanaugh Supreme Court appointment is now very much in play. Find out everything you need to know in 5 stories, many gifts, a few hot takes. You can get it at freepoliticalnewsletter.com. It's a free political newsletter, and you get it at freepoliticalnewsletter.com. Just that simple.
Hey, last Friday, I asked 10 people to do something, and one of you did. So thank you for that. But we are still 9 people short of the amount of patrons we had last month. So I still need the other 9 of you to head on over to patreon.com/DTNS and sign up. If you can afford $1 a month to support the show, you get all kinds of cool benefits. So please check it out. You'll get a commercial-free version of the show. You'll get a weekly column from me, Roger, and Sarah. You'll get access at higher tiers to things like Slack and Discord. So please, please, please consider supporting the show directly. It helps us. It helps you. You are 90% of the funding of Daily Tech News Show. Head to patreon.com/DTNS.
If you have feedback for us, please email us, feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC. You can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
We'll be back tomorrow with Patrick Beja. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I love you, but I got to race to the airport.
Go, Justin, go. Make your plane. Bye.
Jury.
Just to give you an idea, his plane boards in an hour and a half. He's probably a 45-minute drive from the airport right now.
See, this is something that I know Tom well enough to know that this upsets Tom.
It doesn't upset me.
But it
would make me
it'll be
panic.
fine. It'll be fine.
I would be like, I think he'll be fine. I don't, but I would be nervous.
Does he have to check a bag?
No, I don't think he has to check a bag, and he's
Then,
TSA free. So yeah.
But see, I say these things and then I miss my flights.
Well,
So.
see, and I cannot stand that idea. I know it's not the end of the world. There are other flights, life goes on, but it's just
missing a flight is not fun or cool.
No.
It's bad time management. However, Justin, I believe in you.
The closest I've ever cut it, I was actually headed. Where was I headed? Maybe CES. It was some big tech thing, and I ran into Kevin Rose and Daria Rose. And we hung out in the lounge having beers. And then suddenly we hear our names announced. Please report for boarding. And it was like, oh crap, we've totally missed the entire boarding process. And I panicked and they didn't, and everything was fine.
Yeah, that happens to me a lot. Passenger Sarah Lane, final boarding call where I'm like,
That's
oh,
weird. She
I guess
has the same name I do.
Yeah, I guess I should get on the flight. Because I don't want to be on the plane until I have to. I want to wait till the end.
Oh yeah. See, no, and it's all about where your pain point is. I would rather have the pain point of being on the plane, sitting there playing on my phone, not worrying,
right,
than being looking at my watch, am I going to miss it? Am I not going to have room for my bag in the overhead? It's just a personal thing.
No, I think your way is better than mine.
I don't know that it is. It might reduce the number of missed flights, but other than that, it causes a lot of indigestion.
Punctuality people versus non-punctuality people.
Yeah.
I happen to be in the latter category. I don't know why. I'm just always kind of running late.
I vacillate between the two.
That's funny you should say that, because I was going to say Eileen has kind of changed over time. I wouldn't call her the running late type, but she used to be more like me, oh, we have to be there on time. And lately it's more of oh yeah, we got time. We'll be there. It's fine.
Ultimately,
well, we won't be there on time unless we're there on time.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it depends on what my destination is, and that will inform my urgency. I'm going home. Okay.
but one would think making a flight is
always an important
high priority, and yet it happens.
I almost missed a flight because they were trying to leave early. They were leaving 10 minutes early. I have
missed a flight because of that. Well, they delayed it and then they moved it back up. And I
Well,
was still operating under the delayed time.
I
so
was
just missed it.
on the connecting flight at O'Hare, and like the little tram thing that takes you from one terminal to the other was busted, so I had to run all the way. And I guess like decided to oh maybe we'll just hang back because there's like 8 people like trying to make the flight. It's just like, why would you don't they have a big flight flight board that tells them like you got a connecting flight? Hold up.
Yeah, that doesn't seem fair.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, so this is, I don't know. I got a doozy of one from United. They wouldn't take off for an hour until they could find someone to fill the last seat.
Yeah,
All
see,
right.
that's what really gets you going, right? Is when you're like, oh, so you wouldn't wait for me
Who already paid
for my
but
connection, but you'll wait for this person that doesn't exist because
no one had that seat because the seat was quote unquote out of service, and they really wanted to pack in that flight. They had like some people on standby. It's like, we got to put some of these people on. It's like, all right. So they had to go through this hour-long process to go to the repair depot.
Wait, they had people on standby?
Yeah, like the standby process should be 1 minute.
Well, no. So this is the thing. They had to get an okay to put someone in that seat because that seat was out of service. 45-minute process.
Air travel, man.
Like the woman next to me fell asleep and she woke up 45 minutes later and I told her we haven't left the ground yet. She was like, what the?
That's happened to me before where I'm like, what city are we in? Oh, we haven't left. Okay, bye. Good night.
Double check me on the episode number.
It is
3369.
Yeah, 3340 is in the. That's weird.
Well,
Wait,
so
what?
this morning it said 9:15, so I changed it, but that's just in the tabs.
Wait, why does it say 40? That could have been.
The title was 40.
Well, it shouldn't be.
Nah, it's not anymore.
I chalked that up to 3 hours of sleep.
Yeah. All right.
Why did I type 40?
Oh, who knows?
So 2 kids, fun?
Oh, you know what it was? I think I know what happened. The problem is I was trying to type 70, which is also incorrect. But I missed a 7. I hit the 4. I don't know. It's
okay.
Whole night's a blur.
The 9:15 is I do all the time, which is you just add one to the Friday show, which ends up being wrong because you got to account for 7.
Yeah, but I didn't change the episode number. But if I did anything,
all right, I just wanted to make sure we got the right one in there. So 3369. Okay.
Well, what do we think about a title? It costs a fortune this time. No.
I put The Path is Shut as a temporary while I was waiting for us to discuss
Path
it.
sees no path.
Like
Path
the way is shut. The path is shut.
We have a few. We have a few paths.
Linus apologizes. Rise of the Machines 2025.
So no, I don't like The Path is Shut.
Time flies in Benioff's direction.
Benioff buys time is pretty funny. I think.
That's a good one too.
Nothing about robots, huh?
Well, there was the Welcome to the Fourth Industrial Revolution. There's also May the Fourth Revolution be with you.
Fourth and long.
Brave Jayhawk. We're not going to choose it, but
also W. Scottus one
shout
says
out to you.
Friday's YouTube episode says 3369 and should be 3368.
Yes, I will fix that.
Turns out you can buy time.
Yeah, I long story. I'll save it after. Oh wait, we are after the show.
Shelf life 5 days.
Yeah, no, there was I copy and paste these titles from the.
Listen, man, you don't need to justify it. That's
no,
fine.
I'm trying to
It's all
blame
good.
someone.
Yeah, don't worry about it. We're not that kind of organization.
No, I know it's
We're all equally unblameable.
We're all equally culpable.
Totally.
Whose fault is it?
I
Nobody.
don't know, probably all of us, but as long as it gets fixed.
These are union rules. I do like the.
Yeah, I need a title now, though. I'm editing.
All right. So why don't we just go Benioff buys time?
Benioff buys time.
Great.
Good.
Yeah.
Everybody loves
Love
it.
it.
Great.
Wonderful.
Fun.
Next title.
I was going to
That's
suggest
whatever.
something like "Welcome to a brave new job."
Yeah, there's something there. Oh,
But I don't want it to sound too glib. I mean, in a way. Hey, what happened to the? Oh, there it is. Benioff.
I'm glad I'm a. What is it? A beta? No, I'm glad I'm not an alpha.
Wait.
That's from Brave New World.
Oh, yeah. No, because when you say that, I automatically think about the whole Puma thing, the pickup artist terminology.
Yeah, I don't know what that. I never saw that.
But no, it's just a concept.
I only read classic literature, Roger. I do not get your pop movie.
I don't use
Reference.
Wikipedia. I use Cliff Notes, the old paper and ink. Cliff Notes.
Cliff Notes is increasingly a thing that I mention that people kind of look at me like, what?
They
what's
have an
that?
app.
Well, that was going to be my question is,
Yeah.
Cliff
They do.
Notes is still
I
a
don't know if
thing,
anyone
right?
uses it, but yeah, they have a website and an app and they've tried to stay with the times, but
Let's
I don't
look
know.
it up. Cliff Notes were never of much use to me.
Wasn't it Cliff's Notes?
Yeah, it was
Cliff's
Cliff
Notes. Yes.
I know we all say Cliff, but when you're looking it up,
Cliff's Notes. You're right.
Study guides. These are only for study. And even then, they were kind of middling because a lot of teachers like.
Well, the teacher had also read the same. Cliff Notes.
They would avoid
So they
all the
knew-
no,
references.
the English teachers particularly always had a library of Cliff's Notes so they could check, like, did you actually write this?
Like I had a teacher that actively did her lesson plan or the test based on what was included on the Cliff's Notes so she could exclude it in the test.
So she would ask things that were specifically not in the
Exactly.
Cliff's Notes. Wow, that's a lot of work.
She was very intense.
Hmm.
Maybe she had a lot of time. Maybe
English
she felt she
teachers.
was contributing to a broader educational, good.
I don't think I knew that it was Cliff's Notes, plural,
I don't think most
until
people
just
do.
right now.
I only thought of it when you said you were going to search because I remembered searching for it and realizing, oh, I have to put an S. That's like,
yeah.
this was a long time ago when search engines were much less forgiving, like Alta Vista days.
And this is also something that I tend to, when someone says Nordstrom's, I'm like, just singular Nordstrom, like Cliff's Notes. I
wait,
should
no.
know that.
What was the one you were talking about on Have Such a Good Day?
Oh,
And I know I do it too.
oh, give me a second.
Yeah,
Too many shows.
I know. I was listening to that. I'm like, oh, I'm so guilty of doing whatever it is that annoyed you.
Right.
And Heather
It's-
admitted that she did it too.
Yeah. Maybe she's online. It can remind us. I'm like,
How bad is that? I just listened to it yesterday. Well, maybe Saturday, but still. It was not that long ago. And I told myself, like, okay, I'm going to be better about that.
well, and that's the thing too, is like when you complain about these, I never want anyone to be like, oh, it's me that's doing that. Because of course I didn't think of
with
you.
customer support, and it was financial, and it was PDT versus PST.
Oh, yeah. Well,
That's what it was.
I'll give you a hard time about that till the day I die. No problem.
You
Yeah.
know what I do to avoid doing it wrong is
PT.
I
Just say PT.
Pacific time, Eastern
right.
time. Just don't say daylight or savings because I will get it wrong.
Right. Yeah. And to me, I'm like, I don't understand why people get it wrong. But if you do, There's a very easy solution. Just don't guess unless you're sure, and just say Pacific time or
That's
Eastern
what I
time
do.
or whatever. It's so easy.
Oh, you guys, this is bad news.
Uh-oh.
But
Well, it's the day after my move. It's not so bad. Okay, whew, that's close. Ciclavia. Ciclavia is where they shut down streets in Los Angeles so that bikes can ride and have a good time. And they have vendors and stuff. And it's really fun unless you're trying to cross those streets. I don't think I would have crossed these streets anyway, but it's Walt Disney Concert Hall, MacArthur Park, Koreatown, Melrose, Hollywood, and Hollywood Bowl. So new Ciclavia, Sunday, September 30th.
that sounds
September
fun.
30th.
We went to the one that was right near our house one year, and it was really fun. It was great.
I live pretty close to the Hollywood Bowl. But
Do you?
Not,
Oh
not
yeah,
by-
I guess you're
I'm just on the other
over
side
the
of the
the
on
hill.
the other side of what the heck is that
Hollywood
mound
Bowl
called?
is a it would be called
Griffith.
Griffith. Yeah.
Griffith. Is it Griffith?
Park and Observatory. Yeah. Hollywood Bowl is such a nice venue.
I've only been by it. I've actually never seen anything in it.
That's really neat.
Rock show at the Hollywood Bowl. There was long hair, Madison Square.
So, is anyone else watching Bodyguard on the BBC?
No, I heard. I saw a story about one of the.
What was that, Tom? Brr.
That was me getting distracted by something in the middle of my answer is what that was.
Listen, I'm going to be late on a lot of that stuff because I just watched Black Panther because it was on Netflix.
I mean, trust me, I watch all of these things because I rarely go outside. So that's why I'm always first on everything. Great show though, really good. And if you
but it has
like Game
nothing
of
to do with-
Thrones, the main character was Robb Stark and looks completely different. But that's who it is. Really good spy show, you know.
The Young Wolf.
That's right.
Now a spy.
I'm still trying to make my way through the second season of Glow.
Oh, I haven't watched that.
You haven't watched Glow?
No, because Eileen started watching it without me. So I've seen like
Well, I was going to say, this is an
across 2
Eileen show
seasons.
for sure. Like,
No,
I
she's
think
watched
you would
all of
both love it. Yeah.
I've seen about half a dozen episodes across 2 seasons. And not all of them in order.
I used to watch it as a kid, so
It doesn't
I
really need to be in order.
I
It's
know-
just sort of a fun show. Yeah.
I know the characters that all the characters are based on. For the
Yeah,
most
because they're not actually 1-to-1, right?
No,
like all
no.
the characters in the Netflix show are created for the show,
Yeah.
but
There's
loosely based on-
dramatizations of
Yeah.
characters that were in the original series, as well as mentioned in the documentary.
Oh man.
That was fun. Good show.
Yes, it was. Thank you, video folks, for watching. Again, one of the great things you get out of supporting the show is access to more shows. So if you're on the audio or maybe watching Creative Vast Arts special cut that he delivers through Discord, stick around. There's more to come.
Bye.